Few knew how diverse his interests and support were. Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth supported and loved one another for decades. After 70 years of marriage, Prince Philip made a stunning decision: no longer wished to live with the Queen. The people wondered what went wrong with this surprise action. Was this decision personal or more complex? For years, the truth was unknown. Princess Anne, King Charles, and Prince Andrew have revealed the true reason for their father's departure. Join us as we reveal why Prince Philip didn't reside with the Queen in Buckingham Palace. Princess Anne explained why Philip didn't live with the Queen. Princess Anne, Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth's only daughter, shocked everyone with her disclosure. Prince Philip's decision to depart Buckingham Palace and not live with the Queen in his latter years has been speculated about for years. Finally, the truth is out. Princess Anne, her father's favorite, has explained his decision, and her brothers, Prince Charles and Prince Andrew, agree. Stay tuned for the complete story. Princess Anne and her father, Prince Philip, were close, unlike other royal families. She was known as her father's girl because they were both opinionated, abrasive, stubborn, strong-willed, caustic, and had a cutting sense of humor that often hurt others. They relished humiliating fools and had little patience for individuals who didn't learn things immediately. They stood out for their loyalty. Prince Philip and Princess Anne saw nothing wrong with each other. Playfully criticizing each other, they maintained respect. Princess Anne saw her parents' relationship while her brothers were distracted with royal tasks. Anne witnessed the truth behind her parents' flawless smiles and royal relationship. Not only that, Prince Philip also told his daughter about his marriage struggles to Queen Elizabeth. To understand why Prince Philip left, we must go back to before Princess Anne and her brothers were born. Elizabeth, then Princess Elizabeth, met exiled Greek Prince Philip at a 1934 wedding. He was 13 and she was 8. Not until 5 years later did they spark again. Princess Elizabeth was 13 and Philip 18. However, the princess had company. Parents and sister visited Britannia Royal Naval College in Dartmouth, Devon. Philip was one of the cadets they were supposed to meet. An outbreak of mumps and chickenpox during the visit derailed things. They visited the headmaster's house instead of the chapel, and Prince Philip entertained the princesses. The virus didn't infect him. Philip felt bored in the house and invited the princesses outside. He played croquet, jumped over tennis nets, and was careless athletically. Princess Elizabeth noticed this and fell in love. She said she never had eyes for anyone else after that day. This experience gave the princess an adolescent crush on Philip, who she wrote to while he was in the Royal Navy throughout the war. Elizabeth kept a picture of him in her bedroom to show her admiration. Philip and Princess Elizabeth grew closer when Philip returned from the Pacific Theater in 1946. Balmoral was where he proposed in June. He wrote in 1946, "To have been spared in the war and seen triumph, to have rested and readjusted myself, and to have fallen in love completely and wholeheartedly makes all one's own and even the world's issues appear little and petty." Despite the proposal, Queen Elizabeth's father, King George VI, opposed the marriage. He worried Elizabeth was too young and dating the first man she met. She might meet someone else and alter her opinion about Philip. Since Philip wanted to marry Elizabeth, the royal family kept quiet. Royal family members also opposed Philip's suggestion. Despite being third cousins to Elizabeth and direct ancestors of Queen Victoria, Philip was considered too abrupt, unpolished, German, Greek, and un-English to marry her. But Elizabeth persisted. She had chosen Philip and would marry him. A year later, in July 1947, after Elizabeth's 21st birthday, they announced their engagement. Philip gave up his Danish and Greek royal titles to marry Elizabeth, join the Church of England. Philip did this without hesitation because he loved Elizabeth. Philip was baptized in the Greek Orthodox Church, but the Archbishop of Canterbury accepted him into the Church of England on October 3, 1947. Mountbatten was his new anglicized surname. Prince Philip and Princess Elizabeth married in Westminster Abbey on November 20, 1947. The Broadlands, Philip's uncle Earl Mountbatten's Hampshire property, hosted their honeymoon. Philip had no idea his life would change in ways he never dreamed. Prince Philip quickly rose in the Navy after the wedding. A year later, they welcomed Charles, their first son, and Anne, their daughter. Philip was posted to Malta after a successful naval career. The kids stayed in England while Princess Elizabeth visited him. They had a brief normal life. However, their lives were about to change. King George died of illness in 1952. This was 5 years after their marriage. Elizabeth and Philip's life changed. Elizabeth, 25, became queen. Philip, 30, adapts to a new reality. Before Elizabeth took the throne, people imagined they would have more time to enjoy themselves. Fate had other ideas. What would Philip become when Elizabeth became queen? A man who would shadow his wife, Queen Elizabeth. This was always known, but it would influence their relationship. He had to give up Royal Navy ambitions after Elizabeth's succession. For a ship captain, being demoted to support must have been difficult. Remember, this was the 1950s, when wives rarely outranked and controlled husbands. Philip's wife was the #1 citizen. Thus, duty came before family, making this doubly harder. Philip's lengthy battle led him to live apart from the Queen in his senior years. How did it happen? Stay to find out. Philip notified Elizabeth about her father's death while on safari in Kenya. Elizabeth knew what was expected and returned to the UK quickly. Elizabeth became Queen Elizabeth II upon their arrival, although Philip's title remained. King Consort wasn't his title. Instead, he became a royal consort. However, Prince Philip supported his wife and left the Royal Navy to serve the monarchy. This was merely the start of numerous changes. After Clarence House, they moved to Buckingham Palace. After a year on the throne, Queen Elizabeth was coronated in Westminster Abbey on June 2, 1953. After the Archbishop of Canterbury, Philip kneeled before the new monarch and pledged lifelong loyalty. Was he actually capable? Philip had to learn to walk behind his wife in public and give up his dreams to assist Queen Elizabeth II. He later said that he anticipated he would have a lengthy Navy career, but this became impossible, and he had to settle. Philip adjusted and made the best of his new situation. However, Elizabeth and Philip had early problems once she became queen. One of the most prominent conflicts occurred when Philip's uncle, Louis Ducky Mountbatten, declared that the House of Mountbatten now governs in England. This meant Queen Elizabeth's royal children would take her husband's surname. This was rejected by Elizabeth's grandmother, Queen Mary, and Winston Churchill. They insisted Queen Elizabeth and her descendants would retain her father's heritage under the House of Windsor. Philip was furious and called himself a bloody amoeba and the only man in the country who couldn't pass his name on to his offspring. His statements revealed his anger, an effort to find his place in the monarchy, and the challenges ahead. Following her husband's statements, Queen Elizabeth broke convention and made modifications. She stated in February 1960 that her progeny would be called Mountbatten Windsor, a mixture of her and Prince Philip's surnames. Prince Philip was royal consort when Elizabeth was queen, although his status was unclear. He informed Geeks Brandreth he was commonly called a refugee husband. Despite his best efforts, he failed to find a meaningful role in an organization focused on his wife, leaving him in the shadows. Prince Philip regarded his royal consortship as trial and error. He wasn't the first royal consort, but he faced unique problems. Prince Philip also said that when he questioned what was expected of him as royal consort, people looked blank. Philip knew his top priority was serving Queen Elizabeth. In contrast to Prince Philip's dynamic, motivated, and outspoken nature, like his daughter Princess Anne, he did this with devotion. Prince Philip spent his early years modernizing the monarchy to prevent it from becoming a museum exhibit. He struggled against the old guard, who sought tradition. The fact that Philip didn't abandon his ideas led to great success. He suggested broadcasting Elizabeth II's coronations live on television, saying they shouldn't be staged. Over 20 million people watched the televised ceremony, showing his forethought. First-time monarchy was slightly visible to public. Philip was the first royal to appear on television, and after a decade, they allowed cameras into their houses to make a behind-the-scenes documentary. Not only that, Philip advised Elizabeth to stop presenting debutantes at court and instituted informal meals and garden parties to engage more Britons. He reorganized and renovated royal properties and tried to make the royal household and monarchy less formal. Without formal duties, Prince Philip had time to pursue his interests and wrote 9 books by 1908. In 1957, he urged Elizabeth to televise her Christmas messages, taught her how to use a teleprompter, and was the first royal to use a computer, authoring his emails and speeches. Prince Philip was curious. Queen Elizabeth often said, "my husband and I," which became a national joke, But Philip was more than a figurehead. They handled crown issues jointly. Elizabeth let him oversee family things, but he had little influence in state concerns. Sometimes he treated her like a wife, even in public. Prince Philip's pace when driving Elizabeth to Cowdray Park made her uncomfortable and gasp at crucial moments. Prince Philip finally snapped, threatening to throw her out of the car if she did it again. She kept her cool as queen. She sometimes asserted her power in front of her subordinates. He regularly left the room in frustration when she yelled at him to quit talking. Like any couple, they experienced ups and downs. Infidelity was commonly connected to Prince Philip. He was gossiped about for being unfaithful due to his flirty nature. In the 1950s, his Gentlemen's Lunch Club and Royal Yacht Britannia voyages sparked rumors of affairs. His partners included a Russian ballerina, an English theater performer, and a writer. These claimed affairs were never confirmed. At one point, the Baltimore Sun reported that Philip was dating an anonymous woman he met often in the West End apartment. The palace dismissed the concept of a breach between him and the Queen. Prince Philip also jokingly asked if anyone had ever seen him travel any place without a police escort, implying such occurrences were impossible. However, royal biographer Sarah Bradford disagreed. Since the Mid's romance, Philip had learnt to be more covert, flirting in elite circles to avoid paparazzi and tabloids, according to Elizabeth's biography. Though suspicions abounded, no adultery was confirmed. Instead, Philip's commitment to Elizabeth has been clear. At their 50th wedding anniversary, Queen Elizabeth called him her strength and steadfastness, a suitable celebratory opener. The Lord Mayor of London threw a banquet for the Queen and Prince Philip on their golden wedding anniversary. Someone they owed more than they want or will know. Elizabeth always thanked Prince Philip for his steadfast support and affection as they celebrated their diamond and platinum anniversary. Their relationship changed drastically in 2017. Following 70 years of marriage, Queen Elizabeth and Prince Philip divorced. What prompted this choice? Watch to find out. Philip and Elizabeth divorced. Prince Philip retired from public life in May 2017. Queen Elizabeth's husband, Prince Philip, retires tonight. It follows 70 years in the spotlight. After attending his final Royal Marines engagement at 96, he retired on August 2, 2017. Buckingham Palace said the Duke of Edinburgh would no longer be engaged, but he may attend engagements with the Queen. This rarely happened because Prince Philip was busy. After retiring from Buckingham Palace, he proceeded to Wood Farm on the Sandringham estate, where Prince John, the epileptic youngest son of George V and Queen Mary, lived in calm solitude with his caregiver, Lala Bill, until his 1919 death at age 13. Prince Philip moved here. Why? Prince Philip, then 90, said he intended to enjoy himself in a 2011 interview. He retired at 96, but the Queen approved since she knew Philip had been supportive and needed time for himself. Philip was appalled to find a busload of cooks, telephonists, and other personnel waiting for Jim at Sandringham, despite his request for a simple visit. Prince Philip made his stay fun. He enjoyed carriage driving in Sandringham's solitude. His wrist pain prevented him from playing polo, so he started this new passion. After losing control of the horses, he stopped carriage driving as a way to relax. He liked painting watercolors, reading history over fiction, and talking to friends. Philip liked driving, but he crashed on a key route near Sandringham in January 2019. This morning, Queen Elizabeth's 97-year-old husband, Prince Philip, is reported to be well after a car crash. His SUV flipped, but he was unharmed. The driver and passenger in the other car were harmed, but he was not. 3 weeks after apologizing, Philip voluntarily relinquished his driving license. Duke of Edinburgh no longer leads. Buckingham Palace announced today that the 97-year-old voluntarily surrendered his license. He was allowed to drive on private estates and drove Windsor Castle in April 2019. The planned brief excursion to Wood Farm became longer. Philip didn't return to Palace. Though retired, he knew he would want to get engaged in royal life. Instead, he enjoyed Wood Farm Cottage's tranquility. He and the Queen would spend long periods apart under this arrangement. However, they spoke every day to discuss their days, and the Queen and other members visited Wood Farm to spend time with him. Despite retiring, Prince Philip attended the 2018 royal wedding of Prince Harry, Princess Eugenie, Lady Gabriella Windsor, and Princess Beatrice. He lost longtime friends as he aged, a burden of long existence. Philip lost 3 pals and more, including his 40-year-old valet, in a year. Prince Philip was healthy and athletic for his age, but his short-term memory began to falter as he approached 100. Philip wasn't enthused about his birthday, unlike everyone else. He found the attention annoying. Philip also traveled. He spent Easter court at Windsor and weekends in Broadlands with Queen Elizabeth. Later in life, he visited Balmoral infrequently and returned to Wood Farm in 2019 and 2020. Changing roles, the Queen brought him to Sandringham in 2020, where Prince Charles visited. The Queen had to return to state business, so their visits were short. Prince Philip and Queen Elizabeth moved in together unexpectedly. Lockdown was announced in March 2020 during COVID epidemic. Prince Philip entered HMS Bubble with Queen Elizabeth at Windsor. They kept in touch with relatives via Zoom, and on July 22, Philip made his final public appearance, entering Windsor Castle's quadrangle to hand over his rifle's colonel-in-chief appointment to the Duchess of Cornwall. This was his last camera appearance. A Windsor Castle family doctor vaccinated Philip and Elizabeth against COVID in January 2021. In February 2022, he was hospitalized to King Edward VII Hospital for precautionary reasons after feeling sick. The people worried about his health despite his unaided entry. Buckingham Palace said he was responding to infection treatment and had a successful cardiac surgery before being discharged. After returning home, Philip's 100th birthday was discussed, but he wasn't excited, possibly because he realized he wouldn't achieve it. 3 weeks later, Prince Philip, 99, died with Queen Elizabeth at his bedside on April 9, 2021. The palace reported his gentle death, and the Queen later recognized that he had left a big vacuum in her life. Prince Philip's last will was sealed for at least 90 years to protect the Queen's dignity and standing because it may contain material damaging to the royal family's reputation. Princess Anne remembered Prince Philip as her teacher, supporter, and critic. She admired him and wanted to live well and serve freely like him. His lifelong capacity to regard everyone as an individual with unique skills was distinctive. She also appreciated his crucial role in helping Queen Elizabeth become king so young. His steadfast support gave her confidence to rule. Prince Charles honored his father. He said his father had dedicated 70 years to the Queen, royal family, country, and Commonwealth. His father's lifelong passion and work in helping his mother impressed him. Prince Andrew remembered Prince Philip as a father who loved his family. Elizabeth spoke of her late husband a year after his death, stating, "I have spoken before of my deep and abiding passion for this magnificent country and of the many good memories Prince Philip and I always cherished of our time here." Some say that people make a place, and Scotland is no exception, as we have witnessed recently. Her statements showed how much she missed Philip and their special relationship with Scotland. Prince Philip's life and continuous support for Queen Elizabeth were exceptional, even though they spent their final years apart. A year after his death on September 8, 2022, Queen Elizabeth II died at 96. At King George VI Memorial Chapel, she was buried with her beloved husband. Even after death, they were together. What do you think of Prince Philip's later decision to live apart from Queen Elizabeth? Do you think he had a secret motive? Discuss in the comments, like, share, and subscribe for more. Additionally, click the video below. You'll like.